Friday the 13th. We all know it as a day of bad luck, a day when black cats cross our paths and ladders seem to jump out in front of us. But where does this superstition come from? Why do we fear this seemingly ordinary date? Some say it started with the number 13, long considered an unlucky number in many cultures. Others point to Friday, a day associated with misfortune and religious significance. So, join me as we explore the history, the myths, and the real-life events that have made Friday the 13th a day of dread for so many. Now let's start with the number 13. This number has been giving people the creeps for ages. In numerology, the number 12 is often seen as a symbol of completeness. 12 months in a year, 12 apostles of Jesus, 12 signs of the zodiac. 13, being one more than 12, disrupts this sense of order. In some cultures, 13 is associated with bad luck. For example, in many Western countries, high-rise buildings often skip the 13th floor, going straight from 12 to 14. Some airlines even omit row 13 from their seating arrangements. It seems like people would rather not tempt fate when it comes to this dreaded number. The fear of the number 13, known as triskaidekaphobia, is a real phenomenon. Now let's talk about Friday. This day of the week has its own share of negative connotations, particularly in the Christian tradition. Good Friday, the day of Jesus Christ's crucifixion, casts a long shadow over Fridays. Adding to the Friday unease is the story of the Last Supper. According to the Bible, Jesus shared a final meal with his 12 disciples on Maundy Thursday, the day before his crucifixion. Judas Iscariot, the disciple who betrayed Jesus, is often considered the 13th guest at this meal. This association with betrayal and death further cemented Friday's reputation as a day of misfortune. On Friday, October 13th, 1307, King Philip IV of France ordered the arrest of the Knights Templar. This event, known as the Friday the 13th Massacre, added another layer of darkness to the date. Beyond Christianity, other cultures have their own tales of woe associated with Friday the 13th. In Norse mythology, for example, Friday is named after Frigg, the goddess of love, beauty, and fertility. However, when the Norse people converted to Christianity, Frigg was demonized and became associated with witchcraft and evil. One Norse legend tells the story of a goddess who was excluded from a banquet in Valhalla because there were already 12 gods present. Feeling slighted, she sent her blind son Hoder to the banquet with a mistletoe dart, the only thing that could harm the god Balder. Hoder, unaware of the danger, accidentally killed Balder, casting the world into darkness. These ancient tales, steeped in symbolism and superstition, demonstrate the enduring power of storytelling. Now, some folks might dismiss Friday the 13th as just a silly superstition, but then you've got your real-life events that make you wonder if there's something more to it. For instance, on Friday, October 13th, 1972, Uruguayan Air Force Flight 571, carrying a rugby team and their supporters, crashed in the Andes Mountains. This harrowing event, later immortalized in the book and film Alive, involved cannibalism for survival and captured the world's attention. Then there's the tragic story of Kitty Genovese, a young woman who was murdered on Friday, March 13th, 1964, in New York City. The circumstances surrounding her death, particularly the alleged apathy of her neighbors who reportedly ignored her cries for help, sparked outrage and a national conversation about bystander intervention. These real-life tragedies have undoubtedly contributed to the public's fascination with and fear of this date. The plane, carrying 45 passengers and crew, crashed into a remote glacier, leaving the survivors stranded in freezing temperatures with limited supplies. Faced with starvation and the threat of hypothermia, the survivors made the unimaginable decision to consume the flesh of the deceased in order to survive. After 72 days on the mountain, two of the survivors, Nando Parado and Roberto Canessa, embarked on a treacherous 10-day trek across the Andes to seek help. Their incredible journey led to the rescue of the remaining 14 survivors. The story of Flight 571 is a powerful reminder of the fragility of life and the extraordinary strength of the human spirit. Now, shifting gears to a different kind of tragedy, let's revisit the murder of Kitty Genovese. This horrific event, which took place on a seemingly ordinary night in Queens, New York, sent shockwaves throughout the nation. and raised uncomfortable questions about human nature. Kitty, a 28-year-old bar manager, was attacked and stabbed to death outside her apartment building in the early hours of the morning. What made this crime particularly disturbing were the reports that numerous neighbors witnessed the attack, but failed to intervene or call the police in a timely manner. The Genovese murder became a chilling example of how diffusion of responsibility can lead to inaction in the face of tragedy. Now, let's talk about how pop culture has shaped our perception of Friday the 13th. When you think of this date, chances are a certain hockey-masked killer pops into your head. That's right, I'm talking about Jason Voorhees, the iconic slasher villain of the Friday the 13th film franchise. The first Friday the 13th movie, released in 1980, introduced audiences to Camp Crystal Lake and its deadly history. While Jason wasn't the killer in the original film, that honor goes to his vengeful mother Pamela, he quickly became the face of the franchise, terrorizing unsuspecting teenagers in sequel after sequel. With his signature hockey mask, machete, and superhuman strength, Jason became a horror icon, synonymous with Friday the 13th and all things spooky. The success of the Friday the 13th franchise speaks to our fascination with fear and the thrill of the unknown. So, why does Friday the 13th continue to hold such sway over our collective imagination? Well, I think it boils down to the power of belief. Superstitions like Friday the 13th tap into our primal fears and anxieties. They offer a sense of order in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable. When we believe in something, even if it's irrational, it can have a real impact on our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. In the case of Friday the 13th, our belief in the superstition can lead us to be more cautious, more aware of our surroundings, and more likely to attribute misfortune to the date itself. This self-fulfilling prophecy can perpetuate the myth, making it seem like Friday the 13th is truly a day of bad luck. But here's the thing about superstitions. They only have as much power as we give them. Now, despite its spooky reputation, Friday the 13th can also be a day for fun and frivolity. Some people embrace the superstition, throwing Friday the 13th parties, watching horror movies, and even getting married on this date. Here are a few fun facts about Friday the 13th. The fear of Friday the 13th is called frigatriskaidekaphobia, a combination of the Norse goddess Frigg and the Greek words for 13 and fear. It's estimated that businesses lose hundreds of millions of dollars each year due to people avoiding travel, shopping, and other activities on Friday the 13th. In some cultures, Friday the 13th is considered a lucky day. Some haunted places and paranormal enthusiasts claim that ghostly activity can increase on Friday the 13th. The combination of Friday, historically seen as an unlucky day, and the number 13 has given rise to the belief that paranormal events are more likely to occur. Many people visit haunted houses, cemeteries, and paranormal hotspots on Friday the 13th, hoping to encounter a ghost or spirit. Some ghost tours and paranormal investigations are even planned specifically for that day, to capitalize on the eerie energy surrounding the date. There are anecdotal stories from individuals who claim to have witnessed ghostly apparitions or experienced supernatural encounters on Friday the 13th. These stories often involve seeing shadowy figures, hearing disembodied voices, or feeling cold spots in places that are believed to be haunted. Some people have reported experiencing heightened ghostly phenomena in haunted hotels on Friday the 13th. Hotels like the Stanley Hotel, inspiration for The Shining, the Queen Mary, and others reputed to be haunted, often have reports of increased activity from paranormal investigators and guests alike. The superstition that if 13 people sit down to dinner together, one will die within a year is sometimes linked to ghost stories and eerie coincidences around Friday the 13th. The belief ties into the idea that the unlucky number 13 draws misfortune and even ghostly entities. Friday the 13th is often linked to urban legends involving ghosts, such as haunted bridges, cursed locations, or apparitions of people who died under tragic circumstances on that day. These tales tend to circulate through local lore, particularly in small towns or places known for their haunted histories. While there isn't a direct historical connection between ghosts and Friday the 13th, the superstitions surrounding the day lend themselves to ghost stories and paranormal themes. For many, Friday the 13th is a time when ghostly encounters seem more plausible, especially in popular culture and urban legends. Well, We've dug deep into the history, myths, and real-life events that have shaped our perception of Friday the 13th. From ancient superstitions to pop culture icons, this date has captivated our imaginations for centuries. Whether you approach Friday the 13th with trepidation or a sense of adventure, there's no denying its enduring power. It's a day that reminds us of the fragility of life, the power of belief, and the importance of facing our fears. So the next time Friday the 13th rolls around, remember that it's just another day. Don't let superstition rule your life. Get out there, embrace the unknown, and make the most of it. Please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching.